This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hi there, curious minds out there in our ever-expanding radio land. Welcome to CC with BB, Connecting with Coincidence with Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD, the only radio show in the world dedicated to the study of coincidences, synchronicity, and serendipity. We are coming to you through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, located in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, and broadcasting all over the world. I'm a psychiatrist. I'm a pragmatic psychiatrist. I am building on the synchronicity theory work of psychiatrist Carl Jung by making some of his ideas, his theoretical ideas, more practical for us in this dangerous, confusing world. The phrase connecting with coincidence is my coincidence brand. It is the name of my book, my Psychology Today blog, my website, and my social media sites. Be sure to visit my YouTube channel too. To find any and all of them, please put Connecting with Coincidence in your search engine. Would you like to know how sensitive you are to coincidences? Take the Weird Coincidence Survey on my website. Coincidences can help with the practical, emotional, and spiritual in your life. They let us know we have abilities like telepathy, clairvoyance, precognition, and human GPS. Human GPS is our ability to get to places we need to go without consciously intending to go there. Coincidences point us towards other intelligences that may be influencing our lives, and they sometimes trick us. Synchronicities offer a path towards spiritual development. Unlike meditation, which is primarily self-involved, synchronicities show us how connected each of us is to our surroundings. Our minds function in our mental atmosphere, the psychosphere. Just as we breathe in oxygen and breathe out carbon dioxide, we also inspire energy information and send out energy information. The scaffolding of the psychosphere is being strengthened by the rapid development of the internet. This scaffolding provides support for our psi abilities, our telepathic, clairvoyance, precognition, and psychokinetic abilities. Dreams sometimes alert the dreamer to psychological conflicts they are now ready to process. Synchronicities can sometimes be thought of in the same way. A coincidence dramatically mirrors a psychological conflict. For much of her life, beginning as a young child, my patient Maria had feared that someone would viciously spill human blood in front of her. This fear took many forms, always blood, always vicious. As a young adult alcoholic, she imagined that another pain-ridden alcoholic would seriously cut himself in front of her. And then, sober for more than 2 years, what she feared did happen. A man in her apartment building, a person who had talked about suicide and was drinking himself to death, cut himself in front of her, deeply, much blood. She felt deeply wounded, traumatized. Why did God do this to her, she asked. Why did God do this? With my help, she saw that she had a choice to believe that God did it to punish her or to help her. I suggested that as in dream work, this coincidence suggested she was ready to resolve this imagined, now real scene. I asked her which was worse, the dreams or the realities. She could not answer at first, then much to her surprise, she realized the dreams were scarier. From that, she could see that she was making up much of what she feared. She also realized that she had partially manipulated the scene to happen. Now she could take more responsibility for herself than she had ever done before. The real-life scene became then the result of her partnership with God, to which she had contributed. Other factors contributed to her acknowledgement of self-responsibility. As with most psychotherapeutic change, the outcome is multi-determined. Or, as I like to say, there are many vexing vectors of varying strengths coming in to create the outcome we are looking at. The context and her psychological development to this point facilitated this outcome. Since that time, she has increasingly been more able to decide what is best for her and in what direction to take her life. She has many medical problems to have to face, many problems with her family, and many problems with social relationships. However, this experience appears to have taken her to a step beyond where she had been before, where she can realize that she is responsible in partnership with God in creating the outcomes she wants and needs. Our guest today, Julie Starr, is going to help us understand some of these ideas. And Julie, I apologize for that, but we're going to straighten out the next section. Julie will be with us in the next segment, and we will be talking about her abilities to make contact with people beyond, and how synchronicity and other events help shape her life and help her communicate with other people in a way that helps them and helps us see that there is a spirit life out there for us to be able to connect with. We will be back with Julie in just a few minutes.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Welcome back to CC with BB, connecting with coincidence with Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD. Our guest today is J.D. Cross. J.D. Cross holds a master's degree in business administration and has a certification in ordination in the ministry. With a history rooted in service, Cross has taught circles of meditation, energy healing, and one-to-one counseling. After retiring as an executive administrative assistant to the Assistant Director of the Missile Defense Agency for the United States, Cross continued receiving messages from heaven, as she had for years, but was pressed to share the prophecies with mankind because of the importance of what she was given. These experiences with spirit inspired her several books, which include Soul Travel in Heaven, The Day I Died, which details her spiritual journey, along with a near-death experience she had after apparently dying on an operating table. Prophecies in the Light of Christ is her first book. We welcome J.D. Cross to our program and delighted to have you.
Hi, Bernie.
Hi, Julie. It's a pleasure to have you on our program, and I look forward to listening to what you have to say about many things. But I wonder if you might comment on the case that I presented in the first segment.
Yes, um, it's very obvious that the young lady had placed fear in front of her in the creation of her own thoughts and feelings. And typically that's, how we all create our own world and end our day by our thoughts and our feelings. And it seemed that it was difficult for her to get out of the feeling of fear
Yes.
that projected in her day, of carrying it every day and everything that she did, it would spill over into. And then eventually what happens is that one day that fear takes on, a life experience right before us. It's not God that does that.
How do you think that happens if it's not God that does it, which is what she thought may have happened? How does that happen that the fear that fear materializes like that?
Right. With a lack of understanding of the higher power within us, and we're God created beings, we're the most powerful beings, on earth. But we just don't realize and recognize where that power comes from. And it's the free will that was given to us by God. And God, within our heart placed his qualities within us, and we have the choice to choose, that free will of choice, to make our decisions of what we want. And we, through that empowerment, which we empower our thoughts by our feelings, and little do we realize that we're creating that by how we think and how we feel. And the more positive, and good qualities that we place and surround us, in our thoughts and feelings, that comes back to us. That's a law of attraction, cause and effect.
The idea that God has placed within us godlike capacities, and that we have the choice to go with positive or negative, is such an important message, Julie. Such an important message.
It is.
And so go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I'm
sorry. I was just asking.
It's beautiful. It's really beautiful, and it is so. The rewards are so rewarding when we place the positive, thoughts and feelings around us. When we use the higher power within us versus the negative power, our positive higher self comes forward and makes just a beautiful life for us. It's the world of contrast. We live in that world of experience, right? This is a life trials and errors. And without that contrast, we wouldn't know that higher power within us.
Oh, that's
true. We can think of it that way, and we think of it in as a good way and be grateful that we can, see and we can make that choice. It's just that those, and how I see it is that, and how I have been shown by God, that, when we make those choices of opposite contrast, of negative, it's temporary. It's not everlasting. Everything we build is built on quicksand. It falls through or caves in. It may take a year. It may take 6 months. It may take 2 months. It may be the next day. It's very individualized, and that's based on, in this young lady, it sounds like she came from a very dysfunctional family, or a family of addiction, and that, that addiction takes on an identity within the brain itself. It takes on a personality that wants to speak out and will constantly be there And if it doesn't have that balance of that higher spiritual self within that individual, then that's what acts out.
How does she find that higher spiritual self within her?
Well, it's like it's replacing. It takes time. Time takes time, one day at a time, and it takes time to reparent and reparent yourself, because we're not our parents. We're not our parents' experiences. We're there to learn, but we don't have to be that. We can be something better than that. And I'm speaking of just this one individual, because it is all separate, and she doesn't have to be the dysfunction that may have been around her. And knowing that you don't have to be something and you have that choice to change is empowering that person with love and confidence and building their self-esteem. Because in a negative, world, a negative environment, it tears down a person's esteem. It tears down, and tries to rebuild what it wants.
Well, I'm a psychotherapist as well as part of being a psychiatrist, and part of what I try to do in different language is help the person assume more responsibility for their lives. And what you're describing is a stronger way to communicate that to them, by being able to say that you have godlike powers within you, and you have a choice. God has given you the free will to choose between good and bad. And I'm still trying to be able to figure how to help people access that free will responsibility, that God-given capacity in them. I did that with her by showing her that she helped create the scene. She still thought she was in partnership with God in creating that scene. You're making it clearer that she did that on her own with godlike powers. But now it's a question of, how do I help her attune even more strongly with her free will that God has given her to be able to make even better choices in the future?
Well, I think you're doing a great job. And
thank you.
It's an inside job, and I think that's what you're steering her to, that, well, it's an inside job. It's not the outside world, it's the inner world. And by connecting her with her fears or her past experiences that have not been building blocks, but they're building blocks of a negative nature versus the spiritual nature, and giving her the tools to battle that which is, those experiences are there and will always be there in her, but she doesn't have to make them alive. She doesn't have to empower them. When she may an experience may come to her mind, you can give her the spiritual tools in which to say that you no longer empower me. My God, my higher self, my love, the power of love is just
amazing.
Tremendous. It is at every level. I mean, it's amazing when a person makes that inner connection, and what you're doing is guiding her to that light, and so that light of God can take over.
What you're helping me do is helping her and others and me and myself. Is what you said about you don't have to be the dysfunction of your family.
Right.
Because I just realized recently that I have absorbed more of the dysfunction of my family than I had known. One of the fun things about doing this radio show is that sometimes I run into guests who are helpful to me personally as well as to our audience. And it's one of those coincidence things that I'd like paying attention to. And I realized that some of the interaction between my father and my mother, I had absorbed my father's stance in that much more than I had ever believed I had done before, that I'd ever known. I tended to see my father as pretty good guy and had his own life and stuff, but the way he was allowed my mother to influence him is the way I have allowed too many other people to influence me in a non-critical way. And being able to make that separation, as you described it, is a day-by-day thing, as you're talking about. What you're suggesting, though, is that even beyond what I can do as a therapist, if people tune in to God and to love, they get an extra push to being able to do what they need to do inside their minds.
Well, Bernie, another, it may be called an advantage, but you are right there and right on target. All of your education, all of those tools will lend to your inner spiritual higher power to help these people, to empower that. You can lend them, you have so many tools to offer them, to guide them, to the light of Christ within them, not outside. And you also have the tools to show them that what their outside world is, which is their upbringing from birth on, their environment, the traits, the qualities that we inherit, through DNA and through our parents' parenting, and generationally, through generation, those same traits, that DNA, some things skip one generation, but that's all that makes a soul, a person, and the beautiful thing of it is that when we realize that we don't have to be those experiences, we don't have to be our parent or our grandparent.
Yes, or our grandparents.
We don't have to be that dysfunction. I mean, I too have come through a very dysfunctional family, but I had the nourishment of the spirituality.
Julie, we're coming to the end of this segment, and I'd like to be able to hear about your particular journey. We'll be back with Julie Cross in our next segment.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Welcome back to CC with BB, connecting with coincidence with Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD. That's me. Our guest today is Julie Cross, and we are talking about her particular psychological journey, how she, from her own dysfunctional family, has been able to emerge as the healer and helper that she has become. Julie, please continue.
Okay. I came from a very dysfunctional family. It wasn't one of addiction. However, there was, in my mother's side of the family, there was a lot of alcoholism, especially they came from the Prohibition time frame. And even my grandfather, would sell the liquor and bootleg it. But anyway, that addiction itself was very strong in my mother's side of the family, and what I noticed, in that family, for me, I noticed as a little child how it was so different, and it was very frightening to me of their behavior. Yet they're very loving and caring people, but they did have an addiction of alcoholism, and I noticed that later in years, I noticed this, of course, that the behavior can be inherited, not the actual addiction, but the behavior could be inherited, but through my parents. And I think that's where I see, a lot of the dysfunction, how it, transmits from one family to another. And being that I was very gifted as a child from birth, and I sat in meditation with my mother every morning. And the world outside the doors of the home that I was raised in sometimes would be very frightening to me when I would see people and their behaviors, and they just seemed so unlike the God and the angels that I would see and feel always around me. I know that seems odd to say, but it just sometimes, if I saw a person old, I wonder, why are they old? God doesn't make people old, So I've learned to fast forward that. I learned in the later years how to live in two different worlds, how to ground myself in this world and the spiritual world.
And part of what you do is help people who are grounded in this regular world here get to the spiritual world. That sounds like your life task based on your history and just who you are. I have a related question about what you're saying. Someone asked me, is it better to be doing the spiritual development, the elevation, the reaching for higher, let's say, ground or higher spiritual experiences by yourself or with someone? Should there, does a partner help or get in the way of your own spiritual development?
Well, spiritual development is individualized. It's everybody's identity, but everybody's path is different than the other. And then sometimes you run into people that there's a great synchronicity. Yes. And there's a likeness, and it makes the path easier for communicating, because there isn't as much contrast. So it's always good to have, the circle of light of Christ around you, no matter where you go. If it's with a class, if you have to see a therapist, there's nothing wrong with that, to have that guidance in that direction.
What about a spiritual life partner?
Well, I think that is just beautiful. I've been blessed. I was married very young at 19, and I ended in a divorce in 1982. I never thought I would ever get married again, and I continued my work, and I've been 5 years married, and he is an author and a publisher, and I swear I just am so blessed because we're both individuals, but there is a great likeness in the Christ and in the spiritual world, the spiritual thinking. It's and that is just, it's great.
That's a blessing.
It's great.
That is a blessing.
I mean, it's a blessing in communicating. It's a blessing and working with one another and helping one another, and the communication. I didn't have that in my first marriage, and I'm not saying that the marriage was all bad, but I didn't realize at that time when I was growing up there was a lot of alcohol, and my husband, I never thought he was an alcoholic because it was just a social thing that people did, right? But really, he was an alcoholic, and it wasn't until later years I started to see how that does affect the communication and tears down a relationship, because that disease is acting out, and it doesn't want the good. It
It
wants
doesn't.
what it wants.
That's want the alcohol. Yeah, I've got a, I got an alcoholic 31-year-old, and she's done very well with considering that alcohol was her best boyfriend,
Mhm.
because she could always go to him when she was feeling bad, even though he made her feel
Uh-huh.
bad. She could still go to him
Right.
to make her feel good, even though again she'd feel bad if she did him too much. And it's just it was a great metaphor for her, and now after about 9 months she's divorcing him, she's separating from him. It's been a metaphor that's worked well for her. uh,
That is great.
yeah. And uh, in your current relationship, you said something that I think our listeners should really, really pay attention to, that the two of you have your own individual lives,
Mhm.
and you also come together in spiritual ways. In order to
Mhm.
come together in spiritual ways, you need to have your own individual lives.
Mhm. Exactly. Mhm.
Could you tell us how you manage that, the two of you? Because I have some people telling me how wonderful it is to be together all the time, but
Uh-huh.
then they become so enmeshed that they lose their own personal identities, and then they got to blow themselves apart in order to find each other, find themselves
Mhm.
to each other, to themselves. How do you manage that dance between a kind of spiritual deep spiritual connection, and then also going to being separate and different and separate from each other?
Well, utilizing the tools of your higher power of acceptance, and I think it's when you come into the responsibility of your own identity and your consequences and your choices and your decisions, and you recognize where they're coming from, and either you reparent them, to a higher nature, to a spiritual nature. I think that's what both Bill and I do with one another. We utilize, we use God's tools. We constantly keep them in the forefront of our thinking, of our thoughts, and of our feelings. And that when a contrast comes up, even individually, we both will, if we get, because naturally we have to work through this body, it's the physical senses, right?
Right.
If those physical senses want to act out in frustration, immediately we may say to one another, look at each other with a little look of, you want to rethink that? And then kind of laugh. Do we really want to go down that path? I don't think we're going to like it if we do. We can choose it, but I don't think we're going to be happy, And we both then pull in, because
When you
it's
say
naturally.
when you say pull in, what do you mean?
Well, we pull in our higher self. We pull in the love that we come from and that we are. And I think that really makes us grounded and empowers us to where we overthrow any contrast of our physical nature.
When you
You
say
know,
when you say contrast, I think I know what you mean, but would you please define that a little more clearly?
define it.
Yeah.
Well, the contrast is, it can be depression, it can be anger, it can be greed, it can be lust. It's a selfish motivator.
Jealousy. I want put jealousy in there.
Oh yeah, and jealousy. Oh my
Jealousy.
God, yes,
Oh my
jealousy,
OMG.
enviness.
Jealousy. That's a big one around these parts here. You want to own.
Right, right.
You want to own that person and have them do what you want them to do and be the way you want them to be, and don't want them to be with somebody else. It's so powerful, and that's so grounded in our physical being, is it not?
Right, and let's throw controlling in there. I mean, because if we want to control someone else, we want to control our partner, or we want to possess him or her, and those things are all contrast to good, to selflessness, to love,
I've
to
got
joy.
somebody that I talked to where he is big on jealousy when she gets involved with somebody else in any way,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
she's big on control. She loves
Hmm.
to tell him how to think and how to eat, even though
Hmm.
pretends like she's not really doing that.
Mm-hmm. And she empowers it, by her feelings. So she'll empower those thoughts, that energy, because thoughts and feelings are energy.
Yes.
And what they do is they look for an attraction that's like that energy of itself that's out there. And people don't, it's very hard sometimes for people to see that, every thought and feeling is a powerful energy force around us that creates.
So when somebody is jealous or somebody is controlling, that mind is looking for thoughts and emotions that are like that in the other person? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, it is, because, what it does, it creates an experience. And that person isn't owning that they are controlling, okay? So they're trying to project it onto someone else, but really when they look in the mirror, they're looking at themselves. And they don't see that it's really them, and they're really, projecting it onto someone else instead of looking at the inside in themselves.
So if he's jealous, it can be a projection of her onto him, and if she's controlling, it's really a projection of him onto her.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's I've run across that idea before, but you're saying it much more clearly than I had run across it before. We're coming to the end of this segment in about 10-20 seconds. This whole discussion about interpersonal spirituality, I would call it, is so important for us humans to get to. I am clearer and clearer that the psychotherapeutic methods that I learned are too inefficient, that we need more spiritual infusion, and you're helping us do that. We'll be back after a very short break.
This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Welcome back to CC with BB, Connecting with Coincidence with Dr. Bernie Beitman, MD. Our guest today is Julie Cross. And we've just talked about spiritual psychotherapy or spiritually infused psychotherapy. It gets us beyond thinking of just I'm responsible for everything, which is true. I'm responsible for my life, but connects us with a higher power that allows us to work more efficiently and more effectively in our daily life. Julie, one of the things you say is the light of Christ. And I'm Jewish, so I would like to see how the light of Christ fits with my Jewishness and Muslim and Hindu and Buddhist. Please talk about that a bit.
Well, the light of Christ, God lighteth the world with love. And in that love, there's a oneness of everything. In order to have structure in this world, which is very man-made, mankind, put together many types of religion, but it really comes under one source, and that's love. And that's the love of the Christ, and Christ is love. It's not a man, it's a source that came at a different period in time to help the people, and to help the people, further into, what we call the future. But the light of Christ is a force field of love within all of us. It's God.
Does that mean you have to be Christian, or I don't think you mean that, or whatever you mean by?
No.
It's a linguistic problem that people are sensitive to,
It is.
and so I'm just seeing how you manage that.
I believe, religion, which is, all the religious sects, Jews, Christian, it all, helps to identify beliefs and a belief system. And, and it helps those people that are at many different levels of consciousness be able to attain, that connection to their higher source within. And to me, it's all oneness, and that's love. The greatest thing that God placed, and we gave, the source, the deity of the higher power, the name God, or the Father within us. And when we put it all together, we're all one. We're all the same. We're all love. And it's not man-made love. It's not love of the personality. It's a love of something greater than that. It's greater than yourself.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Well, I've had the experience of divine love, however brief. It's a life-changing experience. I'm still absorbing it, and it came through a relationship in which there was I had love. We had much love between us, and that love led to an experience of divine love.
It's unconditional. It's so, it's unconditional, and and that love itself has a higher consciousness, a higher intelligence. It has an infinity to it. It's forever expanding and growing, and we as human beings are returning back to that source. I mean, we're living a world of a physical form of experience. To know the difference. If we didn't know the difference, how would we get there?
How would we get there? This show is about coincidences, and I believe that coincidence awareness, synchronicity awareness, can be a path toward spiritual development. What do you think of that? What do you think of that?
I do believe in that. I know that, through life, I even remember as a child, saying, oh, what a coincidence this happens, or that you came here. I was just thinking about you, know, and you show up.
Yeah.
Well, that, it to me, in later years, I would identify that, as a God-Incidence, because it's of a higher power. It's a higher source. It's a God-given action that takes place, around it to make it happen, because it's thought, with every thought, there is a feeling, but that with every thought, there is an empowerment of energy in that. And we give it, a life through our feeling. We project it. And we're very powerful people. we just don't realize how powerful we are
And
sometimes until we get into circumstances.
until we get into bad circumstances. Yes. That
Have you ever, I just want to tell you one thing. We just built our house in Charlottesville, Virginia, and it's in a beautiful place, and we have, the mountain scenes and all that. And we came from Virginia Beach. And to make a long story short, right through walkthrough, our builder had given us some paint for touch-ups. And I said, I really love the color of the house. And he said, yeah. I said, well, what's the name of it? And he said, it's Divine White. And I looked at him. And I said, oh, my. I said, Divine White. Well, when we were building this house and when we were told to move, we were given the insight to move here. And it was, our house made in heaven. And that's what was told to us. And when he said Divine Light, I thought, oh, how it all fits together.
That's
our
beautiful.
House made in heaven and Divine Light. Well, and see how that coincidence, a God-Incidence, and how it all is really the same. It's just recognizing that that inner in the heart, that love, that God qualities within you. It just places all that energy around you.
With the place that you are spiritually, I imagine from what my research has shown that you see a lot of coincidences.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I do. I love it. I love it.
For those who are not in the place you are, and I love what you said about religions being around to help people of perhaps not developed consciousness to start moving in the developing of consciousness direction. That sometimes they create coincidences that they don't realize they're creating. Kind of like the patient I told you about, who by her own actions and thinking, as you're suggesting, made that coincidence happen. That I try to help people separate out the part they play in creating a coincidence from the part that maybe comes from outside. And the more spiritually developed you become, the less I think each of us is doing it. But then the more I think each of us is doing it, because we've expanded our godlike powers, and then it becomes hard to tell the difference between what we're doing and what the higher power might be doing.
Well, let me say one thing in regards to your patient that we were talking about. And letting someone know, it's difficult for people to see that they create their own world.
Yeah.
And that they are the actual pro-creator of their own world. And to help them see it is to bring ownership. When they take ownership, and that is taking responsibility of their own thoughts, without projecting it into the outer world on someone or some other place, something outside themselves, they will come more into the reality that they are the ownership.
My problem is not that once they get to the ownership, that's a great place to get to. My problem with patients is often getting them to see that they are, quote, creating their own reality. How do they create their own reality? We only have about 2 minutes left, but how do people create their own reality?
By their thoughts and feelings, by, their desires, their emotions, what they want. What do they want? A career, what type of career? When they put all the positive in it and not, wobble between, oh, it's not going to happen. Oh, that's not really good. Oh, I'm not really good. Yeah, I am. But when they're wobbling, teetering, they're helping to create, that contrast of the, right in front of them to show them the difference. Instead of having more trust and belief and faith that I am going to make this. You know, I am going to be an excellent person or whatever.
I have come to finally conclude, and we have about 40 seconds left in this, that I am going to try to get out into the world more clearly than I had before, because I had been wobbling, that synchronicity awareness is a path towards spiritual development. That's my thing. That's accumulation of many, many years of work. And I just got that confidence most recently, and it's absolutely necessary to do that.
Beautiful, beautiful.
I want to thank you for being on the show, Julie. It's been a pleasure to have you.